Do you love cards with a little movement? Well, if you have ever seen wobbles, I'm going to teach you 2 different techniques where you can DIY your own wobbles. Hello, everybody. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'm so glad you guys are joining me for today's Tuesday tip. We are going to be sharing today about how to create your very own wobble springs. These are really fun. I've got 2 different techniques to show you, and I'm excited to share it. So let's get started. Friends, these little DIY wobble cards are so much fun. And I mean, even though I know we can purchase those little wobbles, we're going to create our own. I've got 2 different techniques. So we're going to start with this one here. Before we jump in, I do need to let you know that there's a free download that goes along with today's video. So no need to write down any of my measurements. You're going to have the supplies, measurements, photos, a QR code. So if you need to come back and watch the video again, you can. If you are in the United States, friends, I would love your support for my channel and for my videos and free downloads. And the best way to do that is by placing an order. I have the complete supply list for my cards here. Click this, it'll take you right to my online store. You can order any of the items that you need. I'm going to start with a piece of Pretty in Pink. This is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. I have a couple pieces of basic white. For the inside of the card, I need a 4 by 5 1/4. This piece here is a 3 by 3 1/2. It really can be scrap. It's going to be for these 2 pieces here. And to create the wobbles, we need 2 little strips. I'm going to be using basic white, but you could use anything, whatever's going to look right with your card. But these are 1 1/4 by about 4 inches. Well, before we can create our actual wobble, we got to create the little image that's going to go on top of it. And I just loved this Hearts and Hugs stamp set. So that sweet little mouse I thought was going to be just right. Now this stamp set has matching dies that go with it. You can purchase them separately or you can purchase them as a bundle and save 10%. But for this one, you are going to need the dies, or of course, you guys know you can always fussy cut. So let's bring in that, and then we're going to do a little creative work here with our banner. I'm going to bring in my black Memento ink pad. I am going to take that sweet little mouse, and we are going to stamp him right there. Our sentiment for this one is sending a big hug, which of course was just perfect with that little mouse holding on to that heart. And I'll just stamp that right there. I'm going to use Stampin' Blends on my mouse, but you could also use your Stampin' Write marker. So I'm going to start here with the dark. And it's just a technique I like. I just kind of like to trace out with the dark. Now I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to bring in my dark Pretty in Pink, and I'm going to give her a little rosy cheek. I'm going to go ahead and color in my heart. I'm going to just go ahead and color it all in with the dark Pretty in Pink. And now I can come in with the light smoky slate. And as long as you touch the dark that you laid down, it's going to blend really, really well. Now let's kind of trace a little bit around the little rosy cheeks. We want them to blend, but I certainly don't want to go over that. We'll go ahead and color in the little nose, give her a little gray nose. So I'm going to finish coloring in my sweet little mouse. All right, so now it's time to do a little work with our dies. So I'm going to use my mini machine for this one, but I've got plate 1 and plate 2. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut my little mouse first. I will top it with plate number 2. Run that through. So cute, right? Okay, now I'm ready to share with you. In fact, let's just kind of get some of this bulk out of here. I'm going to lay my sentiment down. Just going to kind of let just a little bit of that hang off, not a problem. Now we'll run this through the machine. All right, so it looks like that. This is how we're going to shrink that die. What you're going to do, you can kind of almost feel the cardstock sort of lock in place. It's really great. So you're going to lock that down. Okay, you can see I have about the same about that 1/2 inch right there on the other side. We can run this through, and truthfully, all we've got to do is really just hit the edge. And as you can see, we now have been able to shrink down that great big long die. We have a little more stamping to do before we can create our wobble. So with this card, we really do kind of want everything ready to go before we do our wobble. So sending a big hug is what's on the outside and on the inside, so it's there when you need it. I'm now going to bring in a pretty and pink ink pad, and in this stamp set is a great set of hearts. So I am simply going to cover the front of my card in pretty and pink hearts. We're now going to come in with the 2-inch circle punch. Now, I have to tell you something. As I was shooting my video, I grabbed my 1 3/4 inch circle punch. It happens. But I really do want my 2-inch circle punch for this. But you know what? When we make mistakes like this, look at this. We can fix it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that punch in all the way. I want to kind of line it up here on the side. So we're going to give that a little punch. So I now have a 2-inch punch there from my my cardstock, my pretty and pink cardstock base. But I do need to let you know, if you do not have circle punches, don't worry about it. Do you know that your circle dies will do great? You're just going to cut yourself about a 2-inch circle down here in the corner. All right, time to create a wobble. And that's where these 2 strips come in. Now, there are different ways that you can do this. I'm going to use mini glue dots because I just think, well, one, they're just the right size for these little pieces. And it just really works quite well. You could also use your multi-purpose glue, but I'm going to put a mini glue dot here on the end, and I'm just going to attach those together like that. Okay, that's pretty easy. Now this is the one that's on top, and so let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to simply fold it under, okay, just like that. Now I do have to tell you, no one's going to see this, so I don't want you to get too wrapped up in, oh, it's got to be perfect. No, it's going to be hidden underneath. But we've done that. Now we're going to rotate, and we're going to take this one under, rotate, take this one under. Do you see what we're doing? We're just rotating, and it's a counterclockwise there until we get about 3 of those. And that's about what I got. Can you see what we have there? All right. Now let's go ahead and kind of seal this up. So I'm going to take another mini glue dot right there, and we'll wrap that last one around, and you can see that kind of seals up and gives us that little wobble. We are simply going to trim off the excess. Now, I should also let you know, you could leave if you wanted to. You could leave just a little bit, just enough that we can add this here to the back of our sweet little mouse. Now, if you've got too much, you can trim it down. But look at that. I think that's going to work just right, don't you? There's our little wobble. So here's what we can do. You can either use your mini glue dots, and honestly, I think that's what I'll do because they're here. So on the bottom of this little DIY wobble, I'm going to add one there. I'm going to add one there. So that's the 2 ends. Now let's go ahead and get one more right here where our wobble kind of all comes together. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Let's add this right here to the back of our little mouse. Okay, looking good. That's gonna give it some nice little okay. I'm gonna bring in my card, and I'm gonna add one more glue dot right here to the actual wobble part. And that's what's going to go right here in the center of our card. Actually, I shouldn't say in the center of that circle. I'm gonna bring it over just a little bit. Can you see how my banner kind of comes across there? So I'm gonna bring it a little bit more over to the right. All right, pressing that down. And there's my cute little wobble, all right? So let's go ahead and bring in our sentiment, and it's gonna go right across here. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I only wanna put dimensionals here on the ends, because it might hang off just a little bit. And so I don't want any dimensional here in the middle, because you can see we're just going to go right across there. Let me make sure I'm making sure it's not showing. I don't have any dimensional showing. Now we're going to add some baker's twine, just a simple little baker's twine bow. So I'm going to open up my card, and I want a pretty good tail about there. So I'm going to leave, oh, what do you think? Maybe that's about 1.5 inches there on the side. I'm going to wrap it over once and twice, and then we'll bring this one over a little bit past. And because it's a Technique Tuesday, I got another little tip for you. I'm going to take a mini glue dot, all right? I'm going to kind of roll it into a little tiny ball. This is one of my favorite tricks when I'm trying to tie baker's twine, because it can be a little tricky. So I can see that's about where I'm going to want my bow. So I'm going to add a mini glue dot right there, and watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this baker twine up and down, press it into place. Now I have plenty to work with. I don't have to worry about that twine slipping around. Nope, look at that. Very easy. If I had cut my baker's twine a little bit longer, right? But we're gonna go about there, trim this down. And with that, we have got a simple little easy to create card, just making that wobble out of a couple little pieces of scrap. So remember when I said that I was using basic white, but you could use anything? You know, like I said, it does kind of show if the recipient was to turn that over. So you want to kind of make it the same, but I could have easily made that some smoky slate or some pretty in pink, whatever you want to do. All right, I have got another card to share with you. You're not going to want to miss out on that free download that I have for you that goes along with today's cards. You can find it at simplysimplestamping.com or look down in the YouTube description for a direct link. All right, card number 2. Now this one, I gotta say, must be a favorite of mine, because I have a pond in the back of my yard where we have a lot of ducks and geese. So Charming Duck Pond, when I saw it, I'm telling you, it just called out to me. And right now it is springtime and we have lots of little babies running around. So I added a little baby duck here to this really fun little wobble card. And this wobble card is a little bit different. So let me show you wobble card number 2. Just like before, I've got a 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. This is Granny Apple Green. I'm going to come back in with that 2-inch circle punch. Yes, I'll get it right this time. We are going to punch our card. Now I'm going to use that on my card, and we're ready to do some stamping. So as I said, I'm using the Charming Duck Pond stamp set. We're going to use the grass and the little cattails. Granny Apple Green and Pecan Pie. Let's start here with the Granny Apple Green. You notice I have my card open because I don't want to stamp anything there on the inside, but I'm going to start right here. And I'm just going to kind of very randomly stamp my greenery, but I wanted it to come up a little bit. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of come and extend it here off the side. No one will know. Now I'm going to be using this again, so I don't want that to get too far away. And now with my pecan pie, it's great. We have these little, it's almost like some little dots that are just going to tell me right where these need to go. So we can add these all around our card. All right, I'm going to take my basic white and I'm just going to kind of lay it here in my card. Really, I'm just kind of using this as a little eyeball, okay? I just need an eyeball. I need to stamp 2 of these. So I want to kind of get an idea of about where that's going to go. I'm going to stamp 2 of these. So, I mean, again, for mine, it looks like I've got maybe about 3/4 of an inch down there. We'll add our cattails. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the inside of my card. By the way, yes, I do mess up, my friends. I do. I accidentally thought, oh, I thought it was 3. No, you know what? That took up too much space. I wanted plenty of room to write my message. So, yes, it happens. But we have that magic 2-sided paper. All right, there is my sweet little my cattails that are kind of peeking through, and you see our little wobble's going to go there. I've got a little scrap here. I believe it's about a 2.5 by 2.5, and this is going to be a Hello Friend card. So I'm going to stamp Hello Friend in pumpkin or pecan pie, forgive me. And this is where that 1 3/4 inch circle punch comes in. So we'll give that sentiment a little punch. So I'm going to do a little blending here. So you can see I wanted to use my granny apple green circle that I punched out, but it needed a little depth. So blending brushes to the rescue. So I'm going to ink that up, and I'm just going to swirl some ink here on that circle punch. That's just going to give it some depth. So as you can see up against that, it's going to look great. I'm using the Lily Pond Lane Designer Series paper. And did you know that these dies actually will die cut some of the little ducks? And look, let's get the little duckling. Yeah, you can actually just die cut straight from the Designer Series paper. Do you love it? So let's die cut 2 ducks. All right, I've got my die set. Top it with another cutting plate. We can run that through. You can die cut another piece of just some basic white and take that duck and adhere it to a piece of basic white so it becomes a little bit stiffer, because it is just Designer Series paper, so it is a little bit thin. And now I'm ready to teach you technique 2 for creating your DIY wobble. And honestly, this is something I kind of had in an upcycle box. So this is floral wire. Mine is a 22 gauge, and I've had this for about, 100 billion years. It's just one of those things that just kind of keeps going and going. So it worked really well for this technique. So I'm going to just take a pencil, and I want to leave myself just, about a 1/2 inch of that, and I think I'm going to do it down here on this end so I don't interfere with the pencil eraser. But leave yourself about a 1/2 inch sticking up. We're going to use that. I'm going to wrap it around 1, 2, 3, 4, and come straight up again. All right, so can you see that? Now, before I trim this, I want you to bring in your icky scissors. Don't use your good paper snips for this, but look, it cuts very simple. All right, it's not difficult to cut through, but because that's wire, I don't want to use my good paper crafting scissors. So that's a great one for those kitchen scissors that are in your junk drawer. Yep, that's what we're going to use. I can squish that little DIY wobble together, boing boing. All right, so you can see we have these little pieces kind of sticking up. I've got a piece of scrap. This is a 1x2 and scored at 1 inch. It's a little bit bigger than what we need, but we're going to trim it down. Now, I've played with some different ways of doing this, and can I tell you, I really think just good old Scotch tape is the best way to go. You can't go wrong with Scotch tape. So I'm going to cut myself a pretty decent little piece here. I'm going to put it over that long tab that I have sticking up there, okay? So you can see it's like that. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to stick it down. It's going past my cardstock. Trust me, we're going to be trimming a lot of this off, all right? So can you see how I just have that taped down? Let me get another piece of Scotch tape, and I will slide it underneath the other little tab that I have sticking up here, and we will fold this over. I think I probably should have squished my wobble down a little bit more and tape that one down. So can you see how it's kind of stuck in there? All right, that's exactly what we need. You know what, my icky scissors are here, and I'm going to go ahead and use them just in case I hit that wire. Now, I can kind of see right where that is, and I will just snip. I'm going to turn it around. I can see where that is, and snip. And the last one I want to get will be right there. And yes, I am hitting some of my wire, but can you see there is our little DIY wobble. Now, if you need to trim off any more, again, remember, no one's going to see this. You could always trim it down, maybe even make it, whoops, see, look, it definitely wobbles, right? We will trim away any of this excess if you need to. I'm actually going to bring in my multi-purpose glue because this is a little bit bigger. So I'm going to put some glue right there. I'm going to take my duck and I will glue that right there. So there's that little wobble. I'm going to add a little more glue here, and let's add our little wobble right here inside our card. While I'm letting that glue dry, let's take our sweet little baby duck and we're going to add her right down there, following her mom. Look, she's just peeking out. That's so cute. Again, I'm still letting that dry, so let's go ahead and bring in that sentiment. So there we've got where we did the sponging. I've just simply adhered my sentiment a little off center. I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals here. We're going to add that to our card, and you can see we're going to do that baker's technique just like we did before. We're going to add that right up there at the top. My glue should be dry. And my little duck, I'm telling you, she has a little more spring in her step, right? I got to tell you here, if you're wondering why I used more designer series paper, it's because I got a big old smudge on the side of my finger and got it on my cardstock. And yes, that's how you hide little mistakes. Do I want this on here? Well, it does take up some of my message writing space. So I probably wouldn't, but you know, when you make a mistake, this is what we have to do. We have to cover things up. There are your 2 cards for today. Create yourself some fun little DIY wobbles. I guarantee you, whether you send it to a kid or you send it to an adult, they are going to love these. Who doesn't love a card that gives you something to play with, right? Thank you all so much for joining me today. If you liked the video, I would love a little thumbs up on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, take a moment to subscribe. Ring the bell so you get notifications whenever I'm back with another video. Thank you all for being here. Can't wait to stamp with you next time. Bye-bye.